Hi everybody, you're all very welcome here today, and thank you to the Lord Mayor's office for facilitating us today. I know the Lord Mayor's not here herself, but the wishes to be passed on to her. My name is Thomas Hynes. I'm Community Director of Bohemian Football Club. Have been for a long time. I can't remember how many years, but I'm the person that you don't say hello to, because if you do, you'll be asked to do something. So everybody seems to avoid me. So they've given me 5 minutes up here to let you know roughly what's happening. We actually launched our work in the community here originally, myself and Chris here, many years ago. And but it's great to see like how we've grown and what's happening now. It's fantastic. I remember starting with a few friends. Stephen Kenny actually was manager of Bohs at the time. He's the current Irish international manager. And I was working with the homeless, and I asked Stephen, would it be okay if I had a couple of tickets? Stephen very kindly said, Tom, how many do you need? So I took 10. Then every Friday, every home game, I'd bring some of the people, and these were in recovery from heroin addicts. And the fact that they could actually go mix with a crowd and blend in because it was a match, nobody was paying attention, had tremendous impact on their recovery. And then I thought to myself, we've got to carry this further. So that was 20 years ago. So we've grown and grown and grown since. I know a lot of you know about our prison work, our school work, the walking football, a lot of other stuff like that that Daniel, James and Seán, when they come up, will tell you more about. And I'm glad we've gone this way professional, and it's a younger group coming through, obviously. But with volunteers, it's difficult. You can only get people when they're available and stuff like that. But when I hear, like James saying, we're doing a 3-year programme, it's absolutely fantastic, because I never imagined in a million years we'd actually grow to this level. It's just absolutely fantastic. There's supposed to be one man here today, and I was going to thank him. It was Governor Walsh from Mountjoy Prison, because we all know you need the right people in the right place at the right time. And he was fully behind everything we did and every idea we came up. Like we do Frisbee now in Mountjoy, we teach sign language, we teach hairdressing, all through sport, all through football. Opened up the doors for people. Because when you go in there, they're a bit, they're a bit cautious. But when they see you coming in every week, playing football, they get to know you, and then you introduce new programs and they trust you, and you're doing it for their benefit and society's benefit. We also do a 5K run every Saturday morning in there, so when they get out, released, they can join in the local park run in all their areas. So there's an awful lot going on, which, as I said, you'll hear more about it in a while. Oh boy, look at that. That's my future ex. It's a joke. But I'm going to tell you something now, how this works. I'm not going to break any confidentiality. I'm not going to mention any names, and afterwards I don't want anyone to ask me any questions. But when I was in Mountjoy, I still am, but I got to know one of the guys pretty well. He was coming up for parole. He got his parole, and he approached me and said, could he come to Dalymount with his wife and children? And he said, of course. And I arranged tickets for him, as I said, through Stephen. And he sat down near where I sit. My family said hello to him, friends said hello. Nobody knew who he was. There was no need for anybody to know. He was there with his wife and his 2 sons. And this went on for a long, long time. And just before COVID, actually, he approached me and he gave me a big hug. Tom, I want to thank you. And I said, no. I said, we've been through this before. You don't thank me. The Bohemian Foundation just opened the door and you stepped through and did the work and turned your life around. And he said, no, he said, my son has just signed for Bohs. I'm nearly crying. Unbelievable. Now, he won't mention any names. And he signed up for a schoolboy team, one of the junior teams, but it meant so much to him after getting out and coming every week with his wife and the little kids, and one of them grew up to sign for Bohs. So, you don't always hear these stories, but you have to presume behind the scene, the work you do is paying off. It really, really is. Okay, my 5 minutes is nearly up. I'll tell you one thing, and after that, and when he walked away, I was saying, no, you're welcome. But you know what? The sense of pride I felt in the club, the work we do, I was lifted up. And I honestly, I get up every morning and I think, what can we do today? Really do. That's why so many people try to avoid me, in case I say, I need you here, I need you there. But now that we're going on a professional level, hopefully like, you know, we'll do it in a different manner and a more professional manner. There's one other thing I'd like to say. There's something that we all have here in this room, a gift, a wonderful, wonderful gift that we've been given. There's billions and billions of people in the world haven't got what we have. We have the gift to turn a person's life around through sport, through football, the game that we love. We have the gift to put a child on the right path. Imagine being able to do that, and we all can. That's an amazing gift we have. And hopefully all of us here working together with teams in Europe, teams in England, teams like all across wherever we can. And let's use that gift that we have to turn lives around. Listen, thank you very much for listening. I really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Now, I'm going to introduce Daniel Lambert. Daniel is the Chief Operating Officer of the club, and Daniel will explain to you now where we're going from here in the next 20 years. I won't say it, but Daniel has great plans. He's going to tell you all about it. Come on, buddy.
How's it going? Just to start by thanking Thomas and Chris and Stephen Burke and many others have done a hell of a lot of work for a long time to bring us to where we are today. Also, just to welcome Minister Roderic O'Gorman for coming today, the President of the FAI, Jerry McEnany, and it's the heads of lots of our community and commercial partners here today. To thank them for coming, Assistant Commissioner for coming along as well. Thanks a million. It really is a special day. I think the club has a very long history. The club's over 130 years old, and I think this is an important day and a special day in that history. The work that's been done previously has been under the banner of the Bohemian Foundation, but from now on it's going to be called Bohs in the Community. We're a not-for-profit as an organisation anyway, so we're not going to have a separate organisation. It's going to be part of the one club. And I just want to start off, I suppose, by showing just a short video, and kind of what I say after that will kind of follow on from what's inside the video.
I suppose the club have embraced diversity, and people are welcome here from different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different cultures.
Since about 2016, we've been running buses from what are called in Ireland direct provision centres, where when migrants come to Ireland, they get directed from the airport, from the port, into these centres, and you know they kind of enter kind of a limbo land there. So we thought, why don't we just give these people 90 minutes every second week to go to a football match?
I came here in Ireland seeking asylum, and I've been here for 4 years. It hasn't been an easy road. You know, life in direct provision is very hard. Some have come here, they don't have friends. They need something to cheer about. So coming in and watching football, you know, you meet different people. When you go home, it doesn't end there. You continue thinking about it for the whole week until the next match. I think as a club, they're just trying to integrate everyone in the community, trying to bring everyone in, regardless who you are. I think that's a good move and really appreciated. To us, I think they are a family. That's one thing that I can say. They are a family.
So, I think, like, obviously the last line that Brian says there, like, a football club can really give people a sense of belonging, and I suppose you can get that sense of belonging from being a player and it was a team sport, but you can also get it from being a volunteer, being a member of a club, and being, you know, part of a club in any way, shape or form. And I suppose for a football club like our own, you know, we've been in existence a very long time, and we've now found ourselves where we have two brilliant members of staff who are going to speak after me. James as our FSR and Community Manager, a new role, and Seán as the Head of Climate and Sustainability for a football club, doing kind of pioneering work internationally, and he's been asked to speak at various events, which he'll speak about, and I think he's gone over to La Liga next week to speak to them. And I suppose I want to just look back slightly and see, like, how have we gotten ourselves into this position, like what's happened at Bohs probably in the last 10 years, and not like in a self-congratulatory way really, or just an honest look, I suppose, at how we've gotten to a stage where we can launch an ambitious 5-year strategy, and one that we think that we can deliver on. A lot of people have made that possible, mainly the club's members, lots of volunteers. The board are obviously totally voluntary as well. And I suppose we go back just to 2011 for a second, and maybe I'll just spend a couple of minutes going back over it. Like, we had a financial collapse at Bohemians. We nearly went out of existence. It was well publicised, and we kind of did what a lot of other people did in the Celtic Tiger. We overborrowed and overspent, and we didn't spend money on apartments in Bulgaria or hot tubs or anything like that. It was players, and really good players. We signed a really, you know, a lot of good footballers, and they won a lot of trophies, but it was a really hollow proposition. It delivered a lot of short-term success, and it almost killed the club itself. I joined the board in 2011 with lots of other people who are in the room, Matt Devaney, Chris Bryant's here, Stephen Lambert, and I think it was a bleak situation, if we're honest. We'd had a hyper focus on a men's football team, not a club, certainly not an outwardly looking club. We had low membership, quite low attendances. I think there was 1,500 people going to Daily Mount, a lot of empty seats, and I think it's fair to say we were fairly disconnected from the local community. There would have been some work done at the time, particularly by Tommy and Chris, but not a whole lot. And it was a bleak enough time. And I think the reason I kind of showed the video of Brian is our work with migrants kind of began and came out of that period where I suppose a lot of people began to look at Bohemians and see something that they thought was an ever-present, maybe something that they'd gone to intergenerationally, that was in Phibsborough since 1901 and in existence since 1890, on the brink. And we began to rebuild a club that its kind of aim was to be a force for good, I suppose, to do the right thing. And Chris Bryan as president then would have said that a lot. We'll do what we do because it's the right thing to do, rather than do it because it was a reason to get people to come to games. We'll do what's the right thing. And as we came out of that period, the reason I use this as an example, one, it's an area we've become really strong in, but this was really one member at the time knew about direct provision. I didn't know about it. I don't think many other people did around Bohemians, and he came in and sort of said, well, this is what happens here, a bit of education to fans, and then began to raise money in bucket collections initially, and would bring a bus to a game maybe every month once he had enough money, 300 or 400 euros to bring a bus. And really when we went through that kind of process of the club began, I suppose people began to become more aware of what direct provision was, how we could help, and a whole lot of things ended up coming from that, and it kind of got buy-in from the whole club. And if we think now of the work we do with migrants, like fans originally, one fan saw an area where the club could make a difference. Our commercial partners, like we see the shirt here on the screen, and we wore that a couple of weeks ago due to what's going on in Dublin at the moment, but Des Kelly agreed, our main partner, to come off the shirt. They pay a lot of money to be on the front of a shirt, and they agreed to come off it. Other partners like Amnesty International helped us with communications, and MASI, obviously, and Lucky's here from MASI, that we worked with MASI to have the greatest impact because they have direct contact with people. But right through the whole club, if you think the board of directors, like, this wasn't an easy decision for them to pass, but they were steadfast, and this was the right thing to do. It would have been easier to turn down something like this. And the players themselves, when we launched the shirt, spoke about why they were wearing it and continue to wear it to this day. Right back to fans now, it's kind of a cycle really, where we raise money each Christmas. Fans volunteer for family days, they donate money, and I think they've become champions for migrants coming into the country. So I think what that shows is that there's kind of a virtuous cycle. Once we began to do things that started out as quite low level and fan led, over time then the whole club becomes involved, and it's cyclical and it benefits everybody. What I'll do is I'm going to come back up in a second, but I might just invite up Minister Roderic O'Gorman to thank him for being here. He has the longest title, I had to write this down, Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. So, small brief, but maybe just to talk a little bit about the importance of sport and integration. Thanks.
Thanks Daniel, thanks for your introduction, and I really appreciate the invitation from the club to be here today to speak at the event and to join you all in launching the Bohemians Football Social Responsibility Strategy. And I really want to commend Bohs, not just for the launch of the strategy here today, but also for their wide-ranging and their ongoing work in terms of putting a social conscience at the very heart of this football club. And Thomas, you spoke, I suppose, earlier on about the origins of that, but truly that approach has become absolutely interwoven in the very spirit of this club and literally everything that you do. I think we all know that football can be a really positive influence on society and a place where people can come together, and for a lot of people all over the world, football is really a common language. And I think particularly for people who are newly arrived in our communities, no matter how they've arrived here, no matter why they've arrived here, sport, and particularly football, it really acts as a kind of a cultural touchstone, something all of us can recognise, something all of us can speak to. And I think everyone in this room would recognise that the value of sport, it's not measured in billions of euro or in the biggest club leagues. It's all about the work that people are doing, that kind of basic on the ground work on the weekends, on the wet nights, making sure everybody, regardless of their background, regardless of their ability, everyone has a chance to take part. And I think it's that sense of identity, that real sense of belonging that sport can give people, and that's absolutely paramount. And I've seen it when I visited Dalymount Park as part of the launch of the Communities Integration Fund. I've seen it in terms of the work the GAA are doing around the country to integrate Syrian and Afghan and now Ukrainian refugees into local GAA clubs. And I think this grassroots work, it demonstrates that diversity and inclusion, welcoming all members of our community, makes a community stronger. And for all of us who believe in those values of diversity and inclusion, these are worrying times right now. And again, I really want to commend Bohs for the very specific work they've done in recent times in responding to some of the racist, some of the xenophobic rhetoric that has reared its head all over the country. And I think, obviously, when parts of the far right protest, they get a lot of media coverage, they get a lot of attention. But we know that in communities all over the country, whether it's in Stony Batter, in Ballymun, in East Wall, in Lismore, in Mahon, we know communities all over the country are actually coming together to support refugees, to welcome refugees. And those actions, they don't get that sort of attention, but they are so much that the mass of people doing those sort of actions are so much greater than the small number who are engaged in far right rhetoric. And I think that's why the launch of today's strategy is so timely. I think it's another moment where all of us can stand up and say say that everybody in our communities belong, and we will use sport as one further tool to secure and enhance their integration within our communities. So again, I really want to congratulate Bohs, both for the strategy today and the long-term work that they've been doing, but particularly express my thanks for the really important work you've been doing in recent weeks and months in what's been a difficult time. And it's really important that you guys keep that work up right now, and we all work to counter these false narratives and make sure that everybody across our country feels welcome in our communities. Thanks very much, Daniel.
Thanks a million, Minister, and thanks again for coming along. I won't stay up much longer. I'm going to pass over to James in a second. But I just wanted to mention, as well as the work that we've done with migrants, and Roderic mentioned we did a brilliant fund, brilliant programme under the National Integration Fund called Football Unites us that James will mention later on. And we've brought a large number of kids from non-Irish backgrounds into our youth teams at Bohemians over the last 3 years. It's the final year of the programme. But we work in a range of other areas. I won't go into all of them, but I just wanted to mention 2 or 3 of them. We've worked in particularly with the LGBTQ plus community at Bohemians in the last few years. And in 2015, we campaigned for the marriage equality referendum. As a club, we saw it as human rights and not a political issue. And since then, just in that area, we've worked with Shouda, who I think are here today, to deliver coach education. We've an LGBTQ plus supporters group, the brilliantly named Bohs, who are sadly still the only gay supporters group in Irish football. They were consulted on this strategy, and they were part of the process that James went through for a number of months with different groups. And in the picture here on the left, we became the first professional football club to take part in Pride last year. And this is another issue where football isn't welcoming to gay people. That's a fact. It is in the female game, but it's not in the men's game. And there's only been, I think, now 3 openly gay footballers in world football, the most played sport on the planet. And if you speak to people, whether they're a fan or a player, it's not a good place for them to go. And I think the first way to tackle that is to recognise it, and we do at Bohemians recognise that, and we do know that we've got to work really hard on it, and it's something that we're trying to do continuously. And we have a brilliant Pride committee set up at the club, who again were involved in the consultation process. So that's an area we've been working particularly hard on. In terms of the homeless organisations in the city, I think I should mention that as another area we've been particularly strong in. It's an issue that's obviously the big issue in the country right now. We've worked with Focus Ireland for a number of years, and again, a range of things that we've done. We've made financial contributions from the club to Focus, and we released a shirt with Fontaine's DC, where again, Des Kelly as a club partner agreed to come off the shirt and to allow us to work with Focus and with Fontaines. Fans have held sleepouts in the stadium, and we gave over some advertising space at the cup final. I know St Pat's are here, and they also gave over advertising space to a charity at the cup final, which was great to see. And I think that, you know, the reason I mentioned these different areas is that in each of the things that we've done, we've sort of realised, and I mentioned this kind of virtuous cycle, but it's true in that members of the club have gotten involved in these projects just as members who want to do good. And our membership now, you know, it's nearly 3,000 people. We surveyed them recently, and 1 in 3 of our members said that it was of, you know, top level of importance, from 1 to 5, how important was the club's values in their decision to become a member, and over 30% of them said 5 out of 5. In terms of our commercial partners, you know, we've got brilliant commercial partners at the club, better than we've ever had over longer periods, and we think of partners like DHL who help us deliver toys to people in direct provision, to kids each year. Just gone in December, we raised about €100,000 and delivered toys to thousands of kids, and DHL made that possible. With Dublin Bus, who are now our inclusiveness and diversity partner, and Billy's here, the CEO of Dublin Bus, an amazing partner of the club, and I think, you know, based on shared values and the support of our women's team. And our local community partners, we've never been stronger. I don't think in Phibsborough, you know, the community are aware of what we do, we're aware of what they're trying to do, and it allows us to champion their issues. And right through to our players themselves, you know, we have a player handbook we give to our senior teams, and in that is a specific section on the club's values and its community outreach programs, and that the players should buy into them and be a part of them. So I think, and what we've found in the process really is that people get involved in football to be a part of something bigger, whether it's a player and being involved in a team sport, or whether it's a club and be involved with a lot of people. But we find that they also want to do good while they're doing that. They want to be a part of something that does good overall. And by engaging in this, we've made the club stronger internally and externally. So we're in a very strong position right now, and that we're in a place where we can, you know, bring on people like James, who's going to come up and speak in a second, but also be a healthy football club, both internally and externally, and be able to reach out and you know, make a difference to groups that need it and people in our local area. I just want to kind of finish by, like, if we think of where we were, and I mentioned the 10 years, like in 2012, this football club had 6 male teams, youth teams, and 1 men's football team, and that was the focus. So you had 7 teams, all male. We'd 1 member of staff, and a brilliant member of staff, and did the work of many, and Lynn O'Neill. Lynn was meant to be here today, but she's hurt her arm. And we had 400 members, low attendances, and I think it's fair to say a small impact outside of our own club. Today we've got 40 grassroots teams, 6 academy teams, they're all boys and girls, men's and women's senior teams, 7 non-football staff, a club poet, an arts officer, a disability access officer, and we're growing all the time. And I think it's by doing the right thing, as I mentioned earlier on, that we've brought the club to this place. And today, and in terms of when James is going to come now and talk about the strategy itself, the strategy isn't meant to replace any of that, you know, to kind of push it to one side or take away from it. It's to build on it, to build on the volunteer ethos that the club has and will always have, to enable us to do more good in specific areas where we know we can have the greatest impact and really make a bigger difference than ever, whilst keeping, you know, the huge amounts of volunteers that we have involved engaged, and hopefully adding to their number. And I'll just finish with a kind of short video. Like in what we do, it's mainly local, and it has some national implications. So, you know, the work that we do, I suppose, you know, with Lucky has national implications. The work that we do locally, that Tommy does in Mountjoy Prison, you know, is obviously local. But we've also begun to make some efforts that have international impact. And we launched a shirt a couple of weeks ago in partnership with Sport for Life in Palestine. So I'm just going to play that video. I'm going to step down. I've said more than enough. Invite James up to talk about the strategy. And thanks again. Cheers.
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Flanagan, and I'm really honoured to say that I'm the very first FSR manager at Bohemian Football Club and in Ireland. FSR means Football for Social Responsibility. So basically, I'm the community manager at a community football club. You might hear from my accent that I'm not from the North Dublin area, but I feel as invested and connected to the club as someone who's been going to Dalymount for 60 years. I moved to Dublin 5 years ago. I moved up for work placement in college, and I was looking for a social outlet, and obviously football is my love. And I was drawn to Bohs, and although the on-field performances at the time were improving, it was actually their stance on social values that was the hook for me. I mean, it's a bit of a shock or a cliche that a man from Galway moves to Dublin and goes straight to the hipster club, but like, you know. But immediately I thought I was in awe of it all, and I thought that this was what football should be about. The atmosphere, the sense of connections between people, I mean, it was just real. From there, I became a member, and through my work at the time at the NCBI, I brought audio description commentary to Dalymount Park, which was the first of its kind in Ireland. I was then given the opportunity to develop and grow in a volunteer role as access officer, to now being a sole member of, or a full-time member of staff, delivering solely on our community outreach programs, building on the amazing work of Tommy and Chris and countless other volunteers. Over the last 6 months, myself, Seán, Dan, Tommy, loads of people in this room and loads of volunteers have come together to put together a strategy that we're really, really proud about, and we're really excited to talk to you about it, and then you will get to see it at the end of the event as well. And it's going to be my job to deliver that, so there's no pressure at all. For 130 years, this club has been engraved into the Dublin 7 community. We know our strength derives from its members, and we must always give back to those members. And whilst others may rely on just one wealthy person, we as a club rely on thousands of ordinary people. We've identified key groups to work with, from children and young people to vulnerable adults and those socially excluded from society. We want to work with them in a wide variety of ways. It's not just about football. A lot of you here today work with these groups, and we're really excited to share this with you. It was really exciting as well to see so many of you here who've been part of our stakeholder consultations, from our LGBTQ+ supporters group Gay Bohs to our partners in DCU. I just want to thank everybody that has been part of our consultations for the last 6 months. As Dan has mentioned, our impact can not only be seen locally but nationally and internationally, and we do feel that this strategy can be mirrored both locally and nationally as well. And so we're going to get down into the interesting part of it. So we've identified 5 areas of work that we're going to work in: health and well-being, rehabilitation, anti-discrimination and inclusion, education and empowerment, and climate justice and sustainability. You might think that that's a lot of areas for this football club to work in, for one club to work in. But just last year, we engaged with over 10,000 people outside of our football operations, which is not bad. So in health and well-being, we recognise this as a key area for any football club to work in. And although we have programmes such as Walking Football in operation, this is actually probably one of our weakest areas. There is a stark statistic that 1 in 4 school-going children are overweight or obese, and we want to help in the fight to combat that. In education and empowerment, we have proud partners who are all here today, from DCU to our local primary and secondary level schools. We want to enable our communities to know that there is opportunities in education and the support needed to pursue them, so that everybody can reach their potential. In rehabilitation, as Tommy mentioned, we're known nationally and internationally for the amazing work that we've done, and we're really excited to continue that work with our proud partners in Mountjoy. We're also really excited to tell you today that we're starting a new EU-funded programme in the coming weeks with some major European football clubs in a rehabilitation through football programme. We're now, as Dan has mentioned, becoming an international leader in climate justice and sustainability. We're delighted to have a club member and now staff member, Seán McCabe, as part of our club, and Seán's going to talk to you a little bit more, in a little bit more detail about that in a little while. And finally, in anti-discrimination and inclusion, as Dan has said, it's all come from fan-led action, and we've grown from there. Through our Football Unites programme, which is thanks to Minister O'Gorman and the Integration Fund, we have now had 75 children from 25 different nationalities take part in the last 3 years of our programme. Or our work on Pride. We just want to create a more just and equal society. And by talking about our anti-discrimination and inclusion and our Football Unites programme, I think this video that I'm going to show you next really typifies where we're going as a club and the importance of our values.
E aí, tudo bem?
Namaskaram.
Salute, ce faci? We are all Bohs. The ball should bounce the same for everyone.
Football unites.
Futebol nos une.
Football unites us all.
So I think that video kind of explains our values, and we as a football club are driven by these. We wouldn't be here in operation for 130 years if we did not stick to these. They guide everything that we do, from our day-to-day interactions to our programs that we run. And these are our values in our strategy. We show leadership in our community. We wanted to show that we want to have our community the best that they can be. We're always going to show solidarity through our work with MASI or our stance in the marriage referendum. We see this as a no way political, but just the right thing to do. Respect is key, and by showing dignity, it leads to integrity. We believe that we will get honest relationships through these. And finally, I think it's fair to say that this club is creative in everything that we do. It's Bohemian by name, Bohemian by nature. We want to give everyone the opportunity to express themselves and be creative in what we do, and together we'll make this club as best as we can be. The organisational pillars are there in front of you. They're engaging communities, capacity building, governance and safeguarding, and communication. But I'm going to speak to you just about two of them today, and I'll give quite good examples of them. The power of our membership is that we have the power of our membership, and we've over 2,000 members now in this football club, and we can have that opportunity to capacity build. I mean, myself and Seán are prime examples of that. Coming to this football club, becoming a member, and then going to the club with a unique idea of doing something a little bit different, and given the opportunity to capacity build into now being members of staff of this club. And this club is all about community, and we always need to engage our communities. Just like we did with our stakeholder engagements, we want to always make sure that the community has involvement in what we do, they understand what we do, and we know that the needs of the community will be met. These pillars are crucial for the success and will help us achieve our goals. But look, I'm going to stop talking now, but I just want to say that I'm really, really proud to be standing in front of you here today. For over 130 years, this club has had goalkeepers, managers and board members, all striving to make this club the best that it can be. And I'm really, really honoured to be the very first FSR manager here today. But now there's a huge amount of work that we need to be done, and we need everyone's involvement on it. We need to honour the amount of amazing work that has been done by Tommy and Chris and Stephen and Jeff and countless other volunteers that have gone before. We're literally building upon the foundation. But this is a living, breathing document, and we need, as I mentioned, everyone's involvement, everyone here today. We want you to be advocates, and we can show that football can be a force for good in our society, so that we can show other clubs, organisations and communities that they can do something like this. But this document is all about people, and I'm really excited to say you're going to hear from some people in a little while who've been positively impacted by the work that we've done in the past. But I'm going to pass over to Seán now, who's going to explain, who's our head of climate justice and sustainability, to explain how and why a football club can help in the fight against the climate breakdown. So thanks for everyone.
are you all? My name is Seán McCabe. I've been working with Bohs now for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. When we announced the Climate Justice Initiative, I think it's fair to say it raised a few eyebrows, if not a few threats. And a lot of people didn't understand why we'd be considering doing something like this, a Climate Justice Initiative. Climate justice was probably a new term for a lot of people. I've been working on climate justice for over 10 years. I never thought of combining it with football. I love football. I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner, but the minute we did, it really, I guess, exploded to the point where now it's actually a little bit tough to manage. There's so much going on. As Dan alluded to, just this week is a good case study. We've got this launch today. On Wednesday, I go to Madrid to speak to La Liga about what we're doing here, and La Liga want to learn from what Bohs are doing. On Saturday, we'll launch a project, a creative climate action project, which I'll tell you a little bit about. And on Sunday, I go back to Spain, not great for the environment now in terms of flights, to meet with a coalition of football clubs that we're leading in a project called Football for Climate Justice. So in the space of 2 years, we've managed to really make a name for ourselves. I'm going to talk briefly about the 3 areas where we see that we can make a difference in this issue. It's safe to say, I think, we've spoken about a lot of very serious issues today that face our community. But this is the truly existential issue. If we don't get this right, we have nothing. And so when we sat out to understand what a climate justice initiative at a football club would look like, one of the first things we did was sign up to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change's Sport for Climate Action Programme. What's interesting about that is there's a lot of emphasis about reducing the footprint of the sports organisations, the carbon footprint, which is, everyone thinks about their own carbon footprint. I think that language has become quite punitive, quite reductive, and doesn't really help us in the conversation about climate change. And it's very similar if you move it to a football club, because actually what we can do in terms of reducing our own footprint is nothing compared to what we can do if we mobilise all of our fans to work towards positive change. And I've had good conversations in the last 2 months with the UNFCCC on exactly this issue, and they are now trying to see where they can go in terms of fan mobilisation as opposed to club reduction. That said, we have, you'll see in our strategy when we release it, a target to reach real zero, not net zero, but real zero by 2035 at this football club, which I think is the most ambitious emissions reduction strategy anywhere in the world in terms of sport. So that's quite exciting. This, though, is where we really want to get at in terms of issues relating to climate change. This is an Oxfam chart produced about 2 years ago, which highlights the gross inequality in terms of the causes of the climate crisis. This is a global chart, but the same chart replicates at the local level. You see that the richest 10% or so are responsible for the vast majority of emissions. The poorest 50% contribute very little to the crisis. That's an injustice, and that's at the root of what we talk about when we talk about climate justice. It's rectifying this concern. And that's why we want to work within our community. And one of the really exciting developments in the last few months has been our opportunity to work with some of the people in the room here, including the Grange Gorman Development Agency, Dublin Bus, the FAI and others, on a new cooperative. The focus of this cooperative will be to build community wealth while we take climate action. We can tell a new story about the climate crisis, one in which action to tackle it can bring jobs to the community, can bring wealth to the community, and give people real opportunities to transform their own lives. And it's that conversation that will make people, Dan was speaking about the virtuous cycle earlier, if you can show people that their lives can get better through this, they'll demand it, they'll want more of it. And I think that's what we can achieve with the cooperative. The third piece of work is really about that point of creativity that James mentioned earlier. We need to find new ways of talking about this crisis. And if we can find new ways at a football club, think about the global reach that we could have we could literally spread ideas around the world instantly. One of the most unusual conversations we've had in recent months was a conversation with the Golden State Warriors, the reigning NBA champions, who similarly want to understand what we're doing at the club. So we could get this right. If we can get this right, we can spread it quickly. But what we're up against is a cultural resistance to these changes, because for an awful long time issues of environment have been in the realm of those who could worry about the end of the world and not the end of the week. And unfortunately there's too many people today that are concerned more about the end of the week than the end of the world because of the situation and the lives they find themselves in. So we need to tell a new story and a hopeful story, and that's why we've been very lucky to benefit from the Creative Ireland Creative Climate Action Fund, a project we've been running for just over a year, which will launch this Saturday. There's many people in this room who've contributed an awful lot to that, including Gary and Mark and Jamie down the back, in terms of the creative output. And this is club poet John Cummins. I'll leave you with this. Well, I won't actually. I'll tell you one last thing. A video Jamie shot with John.
From its humble beginnings in Phoenix Park, Bohs rose. Since 1890 it has flown its arc, made its mark, and still the club grows. They roamed to Jones's Road, to Glasnevin, until they found home and settled in Dublin 7. Parents passing their passion on down to their sons and daughters. The ghosts of those who chanted Bohs still echoes along loyal, royal canal bank waters. Futurising past roots, remembering grassroots, community, connection, simple introspection. What are these seeds I am sowing? Do I know where I am going? Surely I'm aware of where I come from. When does knowledge become wisdom? How do we measure the time bit, now to treasure the climate? Up close, far away, walk the Bohemian way.
And so you can walk the Bohemian Way from this Saturday. We will be launching an app. That app has over 57 locations on it that you can discover across Dublin 7. Each of those locations might be a song, a poem, but it might also be a way that you can get involved in your local community and contribute to a collective effort to fight the climate crisis. There's history recorded by club historian Jerry Farrell. And it's a really exciting piece of work, and we're really looking forward to its launch. It'll be launching with a series of gigs and a walking tour, starting at the bandstand in the Phoenix Park and going up to Dalymount Park. It'll be a lot of fun. Tickets are available on bohemianway.ie. You all get a bookmark at the end of this, and the website's on that, so you'll be able to find it. That's me. So now I'm just going to introduce Gavin Flood to come and take over, and we've got some interactive discussion.
Afternoon, everybody. We are going to switch gears a little bit now. Sorry, I should introduce myself first. My name is Gavin Flood. I'm a fan. I'm a member, and I'm also a volunteer. So really delighted to be here today to get a chance to support the launch here. We're going to switch gears, as I said. We're going to talk a little bit about the impact that the community has on people in it. We've spoken up to this point around our vision for the community and how we plan to drive real impact and scale in everything that we do. But I think it's really important just to take a moment to stop and hear some of the stories, some of the on-the-ground stories of how programming has really built impact across all areas of the community and society at large as well. So delighted to be able to introduce our four panelists here today. We've got going from right to left. We've got Gemma Smith, we have got Karen Halpin, we've got James Conroy, and we've got Let me give them all a quick introduction before we jump into the questions. I'm going to start with Karen. Karen is somebody for whom involvement with Bohs has given her family real purpose, mainly through the involvement of her son Luke, who plays for the special needs team. And Karen will speak to that in a couple of minutes. I'd also like to introduce James Conroy, who is player manager for our Bohemians amputee team. He's also the captain of the Irish amputee team as well. We'll talk a little bit about his experiences in engagement and involvement with the club. Lucky is a former asylum seeker and head of MASI, who you've seen mentioned here earlier. They are the movement of asylum seekers in Ireland. And Bohemians have been working with that organisation for, I think it's going to go on 10 years now, is it called? Eight. So a very considerable amount of time. And during that period there's been real impact driven across numerous areas of the community. You saw the Refugees Welcome shirt from last season. You've probably seen the toy drive, which is now an annual occurrence, and the work with MASI has been key to bringing that to the fore. And then finally Gemma, who is somebody who has been, I'd say, somewhat of a mentor and a supporter as head of programs at Liverpool, and she is somebody who has helped us really build what a sustainable and scalable program will look like. So welcome to everybody, and thanks for taking the time this morning. We might jump straight in. And Karen, I'm going to start with you on this one. I'll just ask you to talk to us a little bit about the impact that Bohs has had on you and your family since you've gotten involved.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Halpin. My background story is that myself and my husband Jeremy have two boys. Luke, who is 19 and Luke was born with Down syndrome. Martin is his younger brother. We got the opportunity a couple of years ago from James to be involved in the Special Champions League. Basically what it was a football team made up of children with special needs. I think we had about 4 weeks training, so it was literally, we were thrown together, but we decided as a family to go over to support them. We may not have done great match-wise, but by God did we do good with the support. We literally, the Irish were the Irish, need I say more. We won everybody's heart while we were over there. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. It's probably the closest we will ever get to going somewhere like that with Luke. So we made the most of it, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Then we came home. We got the chance then through Bohs of getting Luke involved with Football for All. Now we live in Trim, County Meath, so it's about a 40-minute journey to be involved with this. My husband and Luke go every Saturday morning, and Luke just absolutely loves it. Is now, hopefully he's on the path to getting Garda clearance, and Mark will hopefully be helping out with Football for All occasionally as they need help. And then the lads started going to the matches. So Friday night they were lucky, they were able to get tickets. My husband was online, straight away online, and used to get the tickets and whatever. So the lads now go up on a Friday night to the matches. Initially when they started going, the treat was McDonald's, but now for you that go to the matches, you know about the burgers, the pies, the fish, or the chips, the sausages, and as Luke gets his speciality, chips, sausages and curry sauce. And then we became members, then the lads became members of the club. So they're now fully fledged members. And it's just what it has done for us as a family. They have time together, they go up on Friday night, it's the three of them together, they do things, lad things, proper things, you know, that father and sons should be doing. Gives me a bit of time at home on my own, which I'm not complaining about. But I'm going to say this, I just cannot thank Bohs enough for what they've done for us as a family. They have given Luke an outlet, they've also given my husband and Mark an outlet with their son. They absolutely love Bohs. It's just become a passion now in the house, even to the stage that they've started, if it's a away game, to get it on the television. So, you know, it's just totally taken over our life. And that's really it. So I don't have anything else I can say. Thank you.
thanks for speaking so passionately about that. When we actually spoke the other evening, you also said something really interesting. You didn't mention it there, but it really stuck with me, is that Bohs have given Luke a platform. They've been able to unlock his potential and see what he's able to do. And I think that's really, really important. It goes back to what you said earlier, Tommy, about, you know, being able to drive that impact and the gift that we have to do that. And I think it's a great, great example. Lucky, I might come to you next and just ask you to speak to us a little bit about the work that Bohs has been doing with MASI over the last number of years and the impact that that has had with those in direct provision in improving engagement in the community at large.
Thank you. That's good afternoon, everybody. As it can say, my name is Lucky from the movement of Asylum 2011. I also live in a direct provision center for about 3 to 4 years, and I understand firsthand what it is to live there, what isolation does to people. And a few years ago, met with the guys from Bohs. Remember, there was Kevin, and then we started inviting people to come to the live football matches. We started from there. And I could see the enthusiasm from the people who we took people from, there was Hartshorn the Center and Hartshorn FW2, Lodalkin, as well as Barseskin. And that was a historic kind of experience from the people and the children that attended that home game. And it left a very impactful understanding of the welcome, and I would say it talks to the integration of the people in the communities. And remember that some of the people have never been into a stadium, and they hardly leave their center to just be on a social event like that. So it's something that stuck with people here today, that will get taken to the centers, and also moving forward is the collaboration that on the any basis. I'm looking forward to that now, and the most important thing that I gather from this in terms of building the communities is the actual practical ways of integration within the communities. And I think if we can continue doing that, we can be able to lift the spirits of the people, knowing that there are communities that are actually welcoming and are willing to accept people who are foreigners or newcomers with the title. And MASI is doing that to make sure that we become that go-between people and the communities.
Thank you, lovely. Thanks for sharing that perspective. James, I might come to you now. I just ask you to speak a little bit about the impact of being involved with Bohs has had on you as a player manager of the amputee team.
Yeah, thanks, Gavin. So, amputee football is a platform to provide football for anyone who has lost an leg or an arm, or who may have a birth defect, such as myself, and might be missing a limb or part of a limb. So, it's a very complex sport, but once you get down to the nitty-gritty, it's just football. And I suppose the big thing as an amputee footballer, all we look for is respect. You know, it's not pats on the back we're looking for. We're just looking to be treated as footballers, and rather than focusing on what's different about us, focus on the similarities we have with guys with the 2 legs and 2 arms. So our national league was set up in 2018, and I'm lucky enough to be chosen to represent Bohemians. I'm from County Meath myself, so Bohemians was the nearest club, with Cork City and Shamrock Rovers as well. So from minute one, I went down to David Park the first day. I met Chris Bryan, and he said, "You're part of us now, or this is your home, and you're as important to us as the first teamer." And you know, you take that with a pinch of salt. You know, you hear these things, but I couldn't say anything but the truth. That was the truth, you know. 5 years later, it's home. It's home. You can probably hear my voice. I'm passionate about this, you know. like they just accept us and not just me, all the lads. And if you can imagine, like the guys at Powden's thought about inclusion and how important it is, so many individuals that can be very isolated, you know. And all of a sudden, if they find a practice, you know, so many guys have lost their leg through an accident or through an illness, and they spent years on couch, and then they find Bohemians, and they're like fakes. And it's that powerful. It really is that powerful. I wasn't expecting to get emotional, sorry. But it really We've got guys who have gone from refusing to accept their situation to embracing their position and being proud of their body. And from guys who wouldn't wear shorts on holidays, they wear shorts around the house and around their community and saying, yeah, that's me, and I'm a Bohemian footballer, and it's amazing. Like that's the best gift, as Tom said. The gift of football gives more, it allows people to reach their potential. So again, that was probably off what we spoke about the night, but it is what it is, you know. But just listen to us today. We're all on the same page. Doesn't matter if you're an amputee, or you have special needs, or you're in direct provision, you're a Bohemian and you're part of the club, and it's amazing to be part of.
Thanks, James. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that, James. Jim, I might come to you next. You, as head of programs at Liverpool, you've been in this space for 12 years. I would describe you as supporter, mentor, fan of everything that's happening at Bohs. So you have quite a unique perspective here. I'd love to hear from you on two things. One is, what is it that Bohs do well at community level? What are the things, what's the secret sauce that helps drive so much impact? And as we think about the 5-year strategy, what are the things that we should be doing differently or better to help continue to scale and build capacity?
Okay, thank you. I feel a bit of a fraud after following these three. So I just wanted to touch on a little bit of background in terms of, it looks quite strange that some of them, the Liverpool Foundation sat here. So about 12 months ago, I came over and I met Derek, thought I'd give him a little shout out. To consult with some of the Dublin clubs around whether or not they wanted to work with us around maybe supporting capacity building, resourcing. There was about 5 clubs in the league at the time, and we had a bit of background. We had a donor, anonymous donor, came to the foundation and said, we'd like you to do some work in Dublin, we'd like you to partner with some of the clubs over there. Hence why I came over, and we ended up working with 3 of the clubs, but he is obviously is one of them. After the initial meeting, and we have kind of like the green light to go ahead and work, I had a privilege to spend quite a bit of time with Dan. We took it to the offices, and I think you walked through the door and I became a fan. Don't know how, I was like, yeah, I'm Bohemian. Don't tell the other club side. And I think the biggest thing for me that struck me was at the football club, at the Football Foundation, we have 4 key values. And I think the one that kind of struck a chord with me the most in terms of the time that I spent with Dan and the team is commitment. So that's one of our values, and I like the fact that we share those values with Bohemian. I like the commitment that the club has now into the community, what they do for the community. The commitment to also do well on the pitch, that's what the Liverpool Football Club kind of tries to do well. But it's a commitment to the community, and it's a commitment to they're not afraid to kind of stick their neck out and kind of do different and be different and kind of like, you be you. I like that. That's something that, I came away from that. I could really understand about an hour with Dan. It felt a lot longer, but I actually genuinely came away thinking this is something that I not only kind of want to work with professionally, but I really want to work with them personally as well. That I think it's a true testament to the work that he did do, and you've got a bit of a plan for life now over the wall. So I can't read the second part of your question.
I was keen to get your thoughts on what should the club be thinking about doing differently or better to continue to grow capacity and grow impact?
I think we kind of touched on this the other night when we stood. I think they should keep doing what they're doing. I think it's clear from the strategy and how Dave and Stoke so passionately. about what they want to do in the community, what they want to do to help people, what they want to do to grow. I think it's there, isn't it? I think that, you know, we're in the community department, I think we're 30 years old. I think that's right. And I've seen 12 of that. I've seen the growth that we've got. When I first joined, there was only about 12 of us as staff. We've now got 85 members of staff, full-time staff, and perhaps about 30 other kind of casual staff as well. So we've grown considerably in terms of our turnover. Club Bohemian, I just did the calls off the loans for meeting with Director James at their show and other members of the team. And you can be to see the kind of passion there and to see the drive to kind of be bigger and be better. And I just think that, you know, it's great to see the board now and to see what they want to do over the coming years. And yeah, the support here from the foundation for as long as you want it.
Nice, excellent. Thanks for sharing that. So 85 on the team, you said, in the club. James, 1 down, 84 to go. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about one of the pillars of the strategy, which is health and well-being. And James, I might come back to you on this because you talked about participation and involvement and how that is a real enabler, not only in terms of physical health, but also mental health as well. One of the stats in the strategy says that since COVID, 81% of people feel a lot socially isolated, and that's a pretty stark statistic. Would just be interested to hear again your perspective around involvement and engagement, how that's kind of helped in terms of, you know, blessing that for you and for members of the amputee team.
Yeah, it's so important. So like I've always been an amputee, so I didn't have an amputation, but I've always had a limb defect. So my story is slightly different than some of the guys, but for someone who goes lose a limb and they're seeing it, they cut themselves away from society. You know, it's the biggest psychological journey to go on before they can accept who they are or who they become. And football is a fast track. All of a sudden they have a sense of purpose, they have a belonging, they have peers who are the same, and they meet them and they see, oh well, he's alright, or she should, you know, they've got married, they've got kids, they have houses, they have jobs, you know, and they have a very successful life and they're very happy with who they are. And positivity is infectious, you know. You surround yourself with people, you start to become one of those people. So we kind of resemble footballers, the guys with one leg in particular. So they don't wear prosthetics, they play in crutches. And for an understandable reason, the medical professionals are a bit anxious, you know. When you break a leg, you've only got one. It's a bit of a risk, you know. So they don't really push it too much on them. But us as people living the life we're living, we know the benefit, you know, the psychological benefit. So, you know, if you're to never cross the road, if you might get hit by a car, like, you're always going to be stuck where you are. And it's the same for these guys and these girls and these children who go through horrific things, and they start to look at people like me and saying, oh yeah, like look him, I want to be like him, you know. And it's a responsibility that I live with. I love it, I take it on, and I want to make sure that there is a Bohemians football team for some youngster who unfortunately this year may have an accident, but they'll have something to look forward to in the future, and it will help their mental health, 100% will, and will help them become better people around.
It's so true what you say, you know, it's a two-way street. You've got to create the environment for it, you've got to be part of it as well, and then doing that, creating this energy and this momentum around it. So thanks for sharing that perspective. Look, you might get your view on this as well, because I think it's fair to say those who are in direct provision are probably some of the most isolated at large. Can you share with us a little bit about what life there is like and how the outlet of getting to the Bohs games, being involved, has really helped for a mental health perspective?
Well, as I said before, it is to be isolated, and bottom is the key the element of people that give in their provision, because there's lack of activities, especially when a person is still new in the country. As you know that for the first 6 months you are unable to engage in employment or studying, something like that. So that period can be very, very testing for a person that is new in the country. So when there's an opportunity, and it also leads to mental health, and there's an opportunity for people to be out of this, they're feeling it is for a day, to be involved with the right people in a football match. It talks to the reality and the fact that the person wants to believes is in the community. And so it is very impactful. I think it's something that needs to be done even more. I know we're talking about big area, which is Bohemians, within Dublin, and the people west when you are in other isolated areas where there isn't even transport or opportunity for kids to be moving out of a center than for that period. So this is huge, and this I would say I would advocate for people that extend to other counties. But as those like we'll be talking about that as well. See what they can do. So that is what we would like to see also happening.
Thanks for sharing that, Lucky. I'm going to take one more question. I'm going to come to you all with Karen on this, but after that, anybody who has any questions they want to ask the panel, we'll carve out a little bit of time for that. Karen, education, one of the core pillars of the strategy as well. Again, in reviewing the document, one of the stats that jumped out to me is that 70% of people with long-term illness or disability do not participate in sports, which is a little bit heartbreaking, if I'm honest. As somebody who is not works at 70%, but is really fighting the tide on that, I would love to get your perspective on why you think that number is so high. Why are people not getting involved, especially those with disabilities and long-term illnesses?
Well, we were very depleted, went to special school in Malcolm, and in the special school they couldn't with the school at all, children special need, they weren't involved in sports. But I do find that a lot of the children, they would say, may go to mainstream, they're not included in the sports because basically, you know, they're probably treated as not good enough. And that's what it boils down to. It's simply the fact there's no point in messing out and say, but I think this, I think that, that's the bit of my shoulders. It's as simple as that. That people just don't think they're good enough, and that's really what it boils down.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair point, and I think it's so true. And we come back to what we said earlier in terms of, you know, what are some of the values associated with the strategy, and words do matter. Words matter. So there's a reason why there's emphasis on engagement, participation, words like that, which means that, you know, it is open to everybody, and that is key because you create the right environment. Gemma, I would love to hear from you on this in terms of, you know, from an education perspective, how can public Bohs get more people who fall into that category involved with community efforts?
And I don't think I'm the right person to ask, you know, it's James. I think from what they've laid out in the strategy, I think they know where they want to go. They know, you know what you want to do, you know where you want to get to, you know that you want to get involved. I think, slightly avoiding your question, but making my own answer up, is that what we've committed to doing is to working with the club. We want to be a friend, we want to be that critical friend, we want to be a supporter. And I think we call my colleague Matthew, he's kind of the key link for James, and I think Matthew for us, he leads on all of our inclusion works. He's our inclusion manager, and we work with a lot of the same groups that Bohs work with, and kind of those are essentially isolated, and do our best to kind of get people included in, and to make sure that nobody should be going to saying, no, they don't feel good enough. That's just not applicable. That's not, we can't have that. So I think I can kind of see their vision through the strategy, just some kind of what we've seen and look forward to get it as a pro copy, James. But like we want to help that way, and I think that by how we want to do more with Bohs to help them achieve that, and I have no doubts that they'll fly.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Anybody any questions that you'd like to ask the panel? Any takers? Right. We'll keep going. I'm going to switch gears again. You're off the hook for a moment for this next question, because Seán, I want to come to you on this and talk a little bit about climate justice. You spoke a little bit earlier about, you know, the impact of climate, and gave some really great perspective around the role that we all have to have. One area of interest to me in the strategy is the area of energy poverty, which is a real and growing challenge in Ireland at the moment. I think the statistic is that a third of households now would be categorised as energy poor, and the club has a great platform on which to go and address this issue. So we'd love to hear from you on two things. One, why do you think it's important for a club to lead from the front on an issue like this, and how do we drive impact on it?
Can be you're on. Sorry, I should have. I forgot.
St. James. Why it's important? I think a football club is made up of
a community, members of a community coming together as people have mentioned already, to be part of something bigger than themselves. And 1 in 3 people suffering energy poverty. Then we also have the highest rate of deaths, excess deaths due to cold homes in Europe. So this is a very serious issue, and it's an issue that affects our fan base, it's an issue that affects the communities that surround our fan base. So there's no reason why a club shouldn't lead from the front. But also why a club should lead is linked to your point about driving impact, is that there's a really unique possibility for that here. Because sometimes with football you can reach people who will suit or who sold fact pages of paper than the front pages. And you can tell a new story, as you said before. But also, this is a really exciting project that, but I mentioned in passing, the climate cooperative that we're establishing. The idea there, we benefited from Khambule having funding. It will soon then activate. That project will get underway. That project is a learning by doing project. We're going to work with local sustainable energy communities and large institutions, so from very small voluntary organisations right up to Grange Corporate Development Agency, TU Dublin, others, and Mount Joy as well, to learn as a community how to take on the challenge of retrofitting our houses, making homes warmer for people who maybe don't have warm homes, and hopefully working with other partners to figure out how we drive accessibility to things like retrofits for people living in energy poverty who can't afford to access them currently. So the impact question is related to why we should lead from the front. We have a unique ability to bring together all sectors of the community to tackle an issue that's at once a social issue and a climate issue at the same time. So it's a really, really exciting opportunity. I think it's a space to watch because it could be phenomenal. Yeah.
Cool, excellent. Thanks for that perspective, Seán. We're going to wrap now, and before we do, I just want to get one final perspective from the panel. I'll go back to where we started a little over an hour ago, where we said, the purpose of Bohs at a community level is to drive real impact, to be a force for good. So maybe in 1 or 2 words or a sentence, I'd love to hear from everybody on, what is the one area where you think Bohs can drive real impact? James, I might start with you on this.
I suppose football, it's the next generation, youngsters that matters. Going back to what Karen was saying there, if youngsters are seeing Bohs or include people in everything, they're going to their mates at school or their classmates or the person who's different, because that's what their club, that's what their heroes do. So that for me is key. It's always with the next generation.
Okay, cool. Next generation and inclusion. Thanks for sharing. Lucky, might ask you next.
Nelson Mandela said one day, sports is the only tool that you can use to change the world. People that come in the country, they've got hopes of a better life. And if we don't make people feel that they can achieve that hope as they come in the country, we'll be failing those people. And Bohemians Football Club is that hope that we could be able to look forward to. So let them continue what they are doing to change the people's lives in the country.
Thanks for that. Karen?
I would say basically to continue doing what you're doing with inclusion. You're including everybody, you're including all areas. And to me, as I said, that is the main thing. I might see the change it has made on my family, on my son, my husband, and my other son as well. And me as well. So definitely inclusion and continue doing what you're doing.
And Gemma, want to take us home?
No pressure. So Force for Good is like an action inspired with a genuine concern for others, and I think that that's been outlined today, that's what Bohs do. There's 3 key people here that are far more important than me that have been directly affected by the work that Bohs do, and I just think the strategy, everything they say, everything they do, all that genuine concern is there. Continue to do that, and they'll fly.
Okay, Keith, with everybody, thank you for that. Gemma, Karen, James, Lucky, thank you very, very much.
Thanks a million, thanks again, thanks to Gavin for hosting that. I'm going to be 30 seconds here. Thanks a million for everyone for staying for so long. The room has gotten a lot warmer. Energy poverty is warm in here. But I just typed something there. Just basically, we heard from a lot of people here, people who've been impacted. We heard obviously from James, from Seán, brilliant words from the Minister, from Thomas at the start. And basically, I suppose what this is about ultimately is we're a football club at the end of the day. We're a community-owned football club that exists in Phibsborough. And what we've done is analyse in the strategy, and everyone will get one on the way out, there's a pack there. We've analysed issues that face our community, and our community can be local, national, and we can have shared issues internationally. And we've looked at where we can have the biggest impact. And we were committed in the strategy, club resources, to try and tackle those issues. And I suppose we're determined to do that because it's the right thing to do, but we can make a difference, and we've heard, I suppose, how we can make a difference. So it's just to thank everyone again for coming. The reason I was forgetting everyone in the room is to launch it, but also I think everyone in the room can be an advocate for us, can help us in different ways, whether that's communications, whether that's people from educational institutions, commercial partners, the FAI, you know, Garda Síochána. There's so many groups that can assist the club. Some of that could be funds that are available and that make us aware of it. Others could be volunteering and people in the room who are club members. Thanks a million to everybody for coming, and when you go out, you'll get a copy of the FSR strategy. Thanks again. Cheers.